Welcome to the Spotlight Dialogue, episode 28, the evening show about circular economy, where this episode, we will take this dialogue, look for data economy is a sure way to appear in the forefront of sustainability and keep asking questions. I'm your host, Stephen Poon. Good evening to all the audience tuning in. The Spotlight Dialogue, episode 28 is brought to you by the regular team of the Special Interest Group in Circular Economy. From Integrated Sustainability and Creative Strategies Research Cluster, acronym as ISUCS, also known as ISUCS, at Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation, APU. Later on, we will hear from Daniel Spoiala, Regional Head of Data Economy Project. For those who you don't know, with more than 15 years of experience in the public sector, Daniel is a senior digital for development expert currently leading the implementation of the GIZ, which stands for the Data Economy Project in the West African region. A quick explanation here, which is this GIZ. Deutsches Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, often simply shortened to GIZ. Is the main German development agency. It is a headquarter in Bonn and Eschborn and provides services in the field of the international development, cooperation, and international education work. So the organization's self-declared goal is to deliver effective solutions that offer people better prospect and sustainably improve their living condition. So this is GIZ. That's where Daniel comes from. So previously, Daniel worked for 8 years in the European Commission and was one of the main architects of the European Union Digital for Development Policy and a UN and G20 negotiator. Daniel has dedicated his career on making digital technology work in the benefit of the citizen, with the last years focused on developing new data economy business models that address structural problems in developing countries. Luckily, Daniel is on hand to give us a quick lowdown on the topic: rising above recession and equitable data economies support sustainable society. Please welcome Daniel Spoiala.
Hello, Dr. Stephen, and greetings to your audience.
Hi, Daniel.
Hello.
Good evening from Malaysia. Good afternoon to you.
1 o'clock. I'm in Bucharest, Romania right now. So
Yeah, good afternoon to you. Yeah. So, what time is over there? I think it's noon, right?
It's noon. Yeah, it's exactly noon.
Okay. So, did you get your lunch before you get started?
Yeah, I'm all ready.
Or you work late, then you wake up late. No breakfast. Yeah. So, how's the weather over there? Is it hot? Is it
Yeah,
summer?
it's to tell you the truth, it's a little bit cloudy, but normally this is the normal weather here in Bucharest for this time of the year. A little bit more rainy, hot and rainy. And this is something good because during the last years, nothing was normal, in terms of weather. So, when you see some normality, even if it's rainy, it's a good sign.
Hot and raining sounds like Malaysia. We are hot and raining, but we don't get rain nowadays. Get quite a bit of heat. So we had a heat wave here. So it's gonna stay until September, I think, according to the forecast. But I don't know how accurate of the data provided to the audience.
Exactly.
Data. There you go. We're talking about data. Yeah, that's the topic actually. Data. There's a key for the data. Okay. To be honest, I'm so thrilled that you are here with us, Daniel. You're so important people. So hard to get you, especially all the policymakers from the European Union. But thankfully,
I'm not from the European Union. Used to be, but yeah.
Yeah, I know that. But I mean, you were with the European Union, but currently you are with GIS. But still, GIS is a big deal actually. I heard about this for years back when I was in Europe. So they're making a lot of impact to the social development. So we as a foreigner living in Germany for 4 years in the past, I think I really appreciated what GIS do to the social development. So, okay, Daniel, since we just tap into a little bit of data things, right? Okay, let's look at this data analytic issue here. So what do you think there? How can big data analytics benefit business nowadays?
Yeah, so I think before going very deep into the it's like what is big data and how it can be benefit, we really need to understand, what is this data thing that we are talking about. It's like why is important. And there are a few issues that need to be, is like put here on the table. Is that when it comes, what is doing in the last, let's say, decade or more than a decade, it has huge impact on how do we use our resources. Because having data, learning from data, and taking insights from data has strong benefits of actually improving the efficiency of everything that we do in all sectors. And, in a competitive world, economical world, actually decreasing the cost of what companies at the end of the day are producing, how governments are intervening on different sectors. And now with the emergence of AI, and we are seeing day by day news about new AI, this becomes even bigger.
Yeah, it is.
And at the end of the day, it's like what data is describing specific characteristic of an action or of a thing. Yeah. That when you combine data from different type of sources, gives you an insight. This insight at the end of the day can be, for example, highly beneficial for, let's say, improving the efficiency of economical processes of companies, but also has a huge impact on what we call in our work of development, actually, because what we can see is that in places where resources are lower than expected, let's say, we can actually generate high impact if we galvanize the power of this data. And one subject that I'm working right now is agriculture and food security in sub-Saharan Africa. I think that is an amazing field to work with, high potential of actually generating impact for the people at the end of the day.
Okay, let's look at this issue about the trust. When you're looking, when you're working in this African region, I believe there's a lot of trust need to depending upon. So, okay, let's look at the antitrust here. Probably you can share your point of view as a expert yourself. How to remedy data as a source of market power?
Well, it's like I'm not an anti-competition expert, but I can share.
Okay.
I can
Never
share
mind.
my
It's open platform.
so what we have to understand is like this. It's like we are surrounded by data. A lot of data is collected. A lot of data used to be collected either in, for example, analog formats on paper. Yeah, everything now at the end of the day is collected. This data normally is separated about personal data, and us in European Union, we have a very strict regime about how can you use that data.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, data that is considered non-personal. However, even if, when you speak about Internet of Things, that are instruments that are getting data from the environment, let's say, a lot of that data also has at the beginning a human action. Somebody's like, if you speak about agriculture, you place an Internet of Things sensor on somebody's field, or you take a satellite photo, it's somebody's field at the end of the day. Yeah, it's related to property. And we'll maybe come to discuss about what is this type of economic interaction. This is the data economy. So what we saw in the last years is that because data generated so much growth, and we see a lot of the big companies of this planet that are data-driven companies. Yeah, I believe that this has generated a lot of silencing on the other side, because this is a very sociological type of view. When you see that people are getting a lot of value out of data, then you are not so willing to share this data without having something, of course, normally something to gain also from that data. That generated a system where we have a lot of data that is siloed, especially in sub-Saharan Africa or other places. This data is siloed in the public sector. It's a lot siloed in the private sector, and nobody wants to actually have. They don't have the incentives. Let's say, like what is the contract that we have, that you gain something and I gain something. This is the economy. This is the economy of things. Yeah, where I have the incentive of releasing that data. Yeah. So I think at this moment in time, we do not have those incentives where this siloed data can flow, because the data economy can produce so much benefits if data flows. However, in order to
are you talking about decentralization? This is the context, right?
I think it's yeah. We have to simplify. Things are very much complex around stuff. What type of data? It's like you have health data that are highly private. You have industrial data on the other side. It's like, what is actually the economical, system that we all work together? We all have the incentives to share data, and we all get part of our benefit, because this is how economics works at the end of the day. And this is what we do, actually, what we are trying to do. And I'm super happy to work with such a great team in GIZ, but also with a wider team, because we are part of the European Union Finance Project, that is a data governance Team Europe action, together with France, with Belgium, with Estonia, with Finland, covering many aspects of this part. But what I'm trying to say is that, in order to create this flow of data, as with the financial sector, where money flows creates value, this is the same thing. Where data flows, it creates value. But at the same time, you have to have the trust that actually your data, is not misused, and you also get the benefit for that data. And I think this is the touch point of creating a data economy. How do we create this trust among ourselves? And the World Bank worked a few years ago on the idea of creating a social contract. To put it in terms, it's like, what is the trust level between me and you, and what is the sharing of benefits between me and you, in order to make sure that this data flows in order to create value. And why value is important? Because value has to be directed towards citizens, meaning creating value for them, but also is very important for a government, because as any economical sector, when you have value, you can tax that value, and that tax goes in building schools and hospitals, and you create a circular economy, let's say, like sustainable economy, where we all get something out of it, the state gets something out of it, and everything actually, this flow of data works in the benefits actually of everything. Now, does not happen right now to this degree, but this doesn't mean that it not happen. The internet is a collaborative type of, this is how IP protocol was developed. Look at a lot of platforms that actually are user generated content. And for me, always a source of inspiration is the scientific sector, where you can look how much benefit the idea of physics or experimental physics, or all the scientists that are sharing data.
Okay.
So a lot of things are here.
Okay, Daniel. Let's look at the macro perspective. Is it possible to estimate scale of macro data phenomena?
Well, it's hard. It's like you always. What is the scale and what is the value? Value can be monetary, and if you look at what is the estimation here in the European Union, you can see that it's around 830 billion euros market value. But there is also a lot of other value. For example, if you apply right now with all these AI movements, and you develop with what I'm seeing right now coming up, it's like huge possibilities in terms of new medicines. For example, they can make with the AI, the possibility of having a fusion reactor is now possible, or almost there, let's say, meaning a lot of energy for us. So it's like, how do we see value, and what is the value can have different ways, because it can have a monetary value, but I believe value is more than this. Is the value at the end of the day is like how everybody can have a decent life, what we call livelihoods, all around the world.
Okay, Daniel, rethinking rules of data-driven economy.
Rethinking rules.
Okay, Daniel, just give me a second, because I have something in my mind now, and then also I found some of the research I have done the past 2 weeks. So I'd like to find out a little bit more from yourself. Rethinking the rules of the data-driven economy. Recent estimates show that the world could generate more data in the next 3 years than over the past 30 years. And the explosive growth of the data owes not only to human activities. And since as much as 40% of the internet traffic is being generated by machines, between machines, this trend will likely continue and accelerate in the years ahead. So with the number of the network devices in the world projected to reach a staggering 125 billion by 2030. So in the private sector, firms are facing what some consider the data paradox. A Forrester survey of 4,036 high-level executives show that 70% of data decision makers are gathering data faster than they can analyze and use it. Yet, 67% constantly need more data. So the massive opportunity brought about by data-driven decision is being hampered by capacity constraints. Sometimes this challenge is further amplified by the predominantly defensive narrative on data governance and policy, which rightfully places paramount importance on accountability, transparency, and privacy. So, right, Daniel,
Yeah,
the
I don't know about
trillion,
some
the
fancy.
the yeah, Daniel, the $1 trillion questions here. How can firms overcome this demand capacity mismatch and adopt a more offensive strategy to maximize value from data while ensuring safety and compliance? Okay, one short answer. Okay, we need the right people. Put it this way. If I ask, put it in such a really big question here, institution and culture to unlock and harness the data opportunity. So importantly, companies cannot do this alone. So no more, no less. So beyond
Yeah,
than that. So
yeah,
Daniel, in your point of view,
yeah.
how to unlock and harness the current data opportunity?
Well, you know, as a professional that works almost all his life in the public sector, I'm always looking what is there at our end goal. What
Mhm,
is the development model that actually we should promote?
mhm,
And from my perspective, the economical model is the one that actually, uh, as I told you, we have a system where we all put data there, we all get the benefits. It's like we create equity, we create sustainability out of that.
mhm,
So, what is the growth model? Is the current growth model of more users? Where are we going with that? So, let's have this idea in mind. What do we want to achieve when we speak about, the economy and companies? We have also to add the people next in this equation. It's not so simple. We are not living in a pure economic world. That is
mhm,
one. The second of, if we have this, then what is the business model? Meaning, how do we create a system of check and balances between all these actors of
mhm,
level playing field, where everybody works on the same rules. And when you speak about the business model, you also think about what is your input in terms of investments and what is the results that you get, at the other end. And let's speak about data, because data is also, we need to understand, people, because it's not something that you touch. Yeah, it's sometimes hard to understand. However, in order to keep this data, in very big resources that need to be, and the most
mhm,
important in this case, first of all, is electrical energy. 2% of everything that we consume on this planet in terms of electrical energy is taken by data centers.
mm.
Yeah. Now,
Okay.
AI is to do machine learning, meaning to train AI on data. Yeah, you need another 2%. That is 4% of everything that we produce. This electrical energy needs to be produced. It's nowadays not so cheap to produce this electrical energy. So there is a huge cost of keeping data. Not to say the collection of data, yeah,
Mhm,
and then how do you process it? Because
mhm,
data like this has no value. The insights out of the data, something that makes you, to take a specific decision or to improve a process, or
mhm,
actually, uh, um, it's actually the value out of it.
mhm,
So you have some costs. At the other side is like, how can we do this? From my perspective, um, how a data economy should look like. They're like, or how we can actually model a system where everybody, can work together, a collaborative model of data economy, let's say. Of course, it's like, in my project, there are my colleagues that are dealing with what is called data governance, meaning
mhm,
what is the government role, because the governments have a role in making sure that that competition exists, that data is protected,
mhm,
that no harm is done. Yeah?
mhm,
That is one, let's say, top-down approach. What I'm trying to do on the other side, and like not only me but the entire team that I'm in data
mhm,
economy, is to create the instruments of data sharing.
mhm,
And what we are testing right now, for example, is what we call a data space. Meaning, we work, for example, in agriculture. We have a data space. We work with small farmer associations in Africa, with companies, with everybody that wants to be part of this ecosystem. If you
mhm,
want to be part of this ecosystem, you have to abide by the rules. that we all shared, we all decide together, and we use technology, in order to create privacy by design. So the trust issue, we introduce it also in the technology, meaning you are not able actually, because of the technology, the way we design the technology, that you abuse that type of technology. If you abuse that type of technology, you are not playing by the rules, you are not part of this space anymore. So we are trying to create a tool for this, and then having, of course, learning from that, and informing also the governments about how the way is doing. But I believe a more collaborative approach to data economy is needed in order to unlock the data, to create benefits, and to be more equitable, and to have a sustainable result out of these engagements.
Okay, Daniel, look at the institution need to rise to the challenge. Could it help if data were to be recognized as a new economic sector?
I believe, it's, this is from a governance type of view, is I believe it's there, now to be recognized. What that recognition comes from the legal perspective. Here in Europe, in the last, I think even in the last months, we had a number of data regulations. You had the Data Governance Act, the Data Act, and now also recently you have the AI Act. That is the first piece of legislation trying to make a little bit of sense of what is allowed and not allowed in this sector. And always I believe that the European Commission and my former colleagues there in the Commission has done amazing work of trying to decrypt such a complex international type of regulatory sector. However, when you speak about if this is an economical field, what is happening actually? I started my career in the Romanian Telecom Authority, and back then the telecom market, was the emergence of the mobile operators. Every time you have a new, and you are liberalizing the market, you always have, here at least, a regulatory authority that makes sure that at least in the initial years of this market, everybody plays by the rules, and you have a competitive market until this market reaches a certain point of maturity and can run by itself. So this is the idea of the data market. Do we need some sort of agreement among all of us in order to make this the benefit for everybody? Well, the question at the end of the day is that this is not, well, it is and it's not, but most of it, because it's on the internet and data flows so much, you just cannot do this at national level. This is the thing about all this data internet. You need some sort of an international type of agreement of how to do stuff. And of course,
it's absolutely, absolutely borderless, because this is no border. You can just cross wherever you want. So that's the reason you cannot do it alone. Yes. Yeah. When you talk about the law and the rules, actually, yesterday, when I was in one of the Asia largest exhibition in Malaysia yesterday, I was talking to some of the delegates, and we talked about the AI code of conduct. So we in Malaysia we don't have law yet about all these issues, especially the how do we deal with all this AI. But there is some kind of like enlightened, which is a discussion about the code of conduct, which is there was a discuss. There was some of the statement mentioned by our prime minister from Malaysia. So he said that because of this, the massive usage of this AI, and also the entire phenomenon is bringing the entire nation to the different level. So I think there's a certain things need to be controlled. So there is a code of conduct need to be in place. So he said something about this. So then a lot of people are taking note about all this discussion. So I think something is coming out which is good. So this is which is really aligning with like whatever you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So
please.
Yeah. And Daniel, let's get into another perspective. No matter how such a critical data issues have not been fully addressed in the sustainability context so much, which is we are moving to the sustainability context here, in which the role of the digital technologies and data innovation in particular have received scant attention so far in analysis of sustainability transformation. So Daniel, what is the role of data innovation in transformation to sustainability?
Yeah, it's I think it's the cornerstone right now, because I'm working on the African continent for a long time right now, and I am a very strong believer of the positive impact of technology there in terms of leapfrogging. It's called. We saw that a lot with the fintech, and what data can do is solve structural issues that are present somewhere. And I'm looking right now in what I'm doing, and I'm seeing, for example, to what we call data use cases, meaning how do you put data to use to solve those issues, those challenges. And the first thing that we are trying to do is in the agriculture field, and I think is knowledgeable to everybody that sometimes, it's like in many African countries, either if you have massive amounts of land, there is sometimes an issue of food security. And why is that? Because small farmers produce less in terms of production per hectare, let's say, yeah. And they do not have a market, yeah, and it's a lot of things that are thrown away. Well, where you are in a situation where you need that food. So what is happening is that you see that you see the imported tomatoes. There's something that is why? Because it can get cheaper to actually breed even with the boat than to take it from there. At the same time, I cannot tell you about the climate impact of everything, because agriculture is also at the center of climate.
It is.
Where I work actually is, it's like when the rainy season comes, sometimes the river, they don't flow on the same path, meaning like small farmers are putting the crop there, the river is coming, Well, we can predict, because what data? We take all this amount of big data, we take it from everywhere, and we start using AI, we establish patterns. We can know where most probably the river will flow that year. Yes, it's like, in a lot of countries, getting relevant weather information is so easy. This is not the case all over the place, because weather patterns are very much, proportional with what data do you have from there in order to define that. So, what we can do is, like, by taking data and getting all the stakeholders, we are working with the entire community there. Also have a data ownership model, working together, putting data together, we can deliver two types of benefits. First benefit is to the small farmer, that we can have proven. There are like a lot of studies on this and examples of how what we call like precision agriculture, meaning how do we support a small farmer to know how much water what to put in the ground, how much water to put, how much fertilizer, how will be the weather tomorrow. Because you cannot imagine, for example, if you do not know when it will be raining exactly and you water your field, then you use a lot of water that you should not use. Yeah, if you put too much or too little fertilizer. So we can increase the crop level by some sufficient margins. Also creating an online market where, of course, I know it's like if you are 10 kilometers from here and you have 20 kilos of tomatoes that tomorrow will not be good, and you are willing to sell them at half or a quarter of the price, why this information, this data is not somewhere, for me to go and get it, in order to not to misuse this type of resources. So the climate action is that we managing the resources that are be placed in the agriculture field. Another sector, and that is very much related to a lot of experience in Southeast Asia, is open banking. In Africa, large majority of the economy is informal. If you are in the informal field, you cannot go to a bank and get a credit to expand your business. Very hard. So
okay, Daniel.
Please.
In this context, right, what is being transformed with the support of the data innovation?
Well, so what we are trying to do is this data space approach that we are. I told you this is the innovation per se,
Mm,
where we work with the government, with the startups. We create this data space. We do the technology inside of data ontology of everything. We create the data governance. And imagine like this: we have a platform, and this is the innovation. You have an AI-driven platform. On one side, you have a startup that says, I can solve this idea, but in order to solve this problem in the society, I need this data. Well, what this platform does actually is assuring that on one side, you have access to governmental data that should be free, open source data. Yeah. But at the other side, it can be also a market space for the private sector because the company will never give its data for free. Yeah.
mm,
However,
mm,
if you have, let's say, this type of environment, we can all talk together and we regulate the price, saying, okay, for this type of data, this is the maximum amount that you can ask, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Then inside the platform, now people are buying and selling data. So when you have an idea of using data to solve something or create a business, then you have the space actually of getting that data. And in this, it's like, because as in offering demand, yeah, or demand and offer, where you have a demand, you will always have somebody, if to offer you, if can get some financial benefit out of it.
mm,
And in Africa, what it worked a lot, is the drone for agriculture. Yeah. Meaning, imagine that I need photos, it's like to see using AI to see if there are like specific diseases or what are the diseases of the plant. We can do that, right? Yeah. Then, but you don't have the data. You can have like a small company of 2 students buy some drones and taking photographs. But of course, what we are trying to see here is what type of that value goes also to the small farmer that that has the property of that specific field. So this is some sort of the innovation. The innovation is in the relationship, the governance of this data space, because at the end of the day, a lot of this technology exists for a long time. We do not
mm.
have an issue of technology right now. And
Yeah, of
from
course,
my
yeah.
line of work, I can tell you that 80% of the work is not technology. 80% of the work is getting people together, convincing them, agreeing with them, it's we call it analog. Yeah, it's called analog work of digitalization, of digital transformation.
Yeah, agree with them. I like that actually. Okay, Daniel, are data innovation enabling sustainability transformation for whom, and actually by whom?
Yeah, you know, we have two things here. It's called, one is equity, and the other
Mm,
is sustainability. And from my point of view, these are very much interrelated. What
mm,
equity means that while not everybody will succeed, everybody will have a fair chance or the same chance of succeeding. Yeah, that is
mm.
equity, equal chances. This is something that is, at least in Europe, is very strong, in order to, okay, everybody has equal chance of succeeding. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. If I and this is related to trust. If we have an equitable environment, that is in the terms of governance, in the terms of a data space where you know that everybody
Mm-hmm.
works by the same rules, yeah, then
Mm-hmm.
you say, okay, then you will be more willing to engage in this economical relationship. You will be
Mm-hmm.
more willing to share your data because it's your benefit also. You have a fighting chance of winning out of this. Everybody has. Yeah. When you create this type of economic relationship based on equity, yeah, then you will see that the direct connection is sustainability. And what is this? Because by sharing more data, we can use better our resources. We all know, we are all seeing around us the impact of climate change. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, we have a lot of, for example, future technologies that we hope that will help us
Mm-hmm.
solve many of the issues. However, from what I'm reading, those technologies are further away than what we have available right now. And the only way to create this sustainability, meaning not to consume more than we have. This is sustainability. Is to manage our resources, and this is resources in any economical field. Managing resources, understanding how to manage resources, how to apply those resources in a smart way, is generated by data. Having data about things makes you understand better those things and intervene in that in a more efficient way. So this is the relationship between equity and sustainability. And as I told you, in terms of sustainability, only the agriculture field, the impact of precision agriculture, of agri-tech, of doing that. Then what comes from data in the climate interventions, the models that we use right now to predict what will happen, those are all coming from data. Yeah. So imagine a world, if we can start here, I'm working now with my colleagues from Germany, from Senegal, from Kenya, from all over where we are placed right now. We have this seed where we can prove, because this is what we are trying to prove. We prove that this system works and is economical viable, meaning produces benefits. Imagine this system where we have some sort of a trust relations, because everybody will win from this interaction. Because everybody will win, we'll all be happy to share our data. Also, we have to make sure that our data is not misused for different purposes. Of course, that will always happen. We have to have some leverage into that. And then, with this data flow, we can understand things that maybe we cannot even imagine right now. And everything was changed by, of course, the efficiency brought by the AI. Because,
and Daniel,
yeah,
through which processes are data innovation supporting sustainability transformation?
Well, at least from my side of work, I have other colleagues that are dealing with what is called the innovation sector, and the innovation sector is mostly we look at into the startup world, emerging. It's from some time right now on the African continent, for example, that are proposing some of them really what is called sometimes frugal innovation, meaning less input, high impact type of innovation. Yeah. However, what I see in the last years is that while there are a lot of companies and startups in Africa working on a lot of issues, they have a huge difficulty on scaling up, meaning to be economical viable. We cannot speak in like some sort of utopia world. Everything that works, needs to have some sort of economical value, so people can have a salary and pay for the tuition of their kids, or the school or whatever. That is the reality of life.
Yeah, so, nothing utopia, isn't it? No La La Land.
Yeah. So then at the end of the day,
yeah, no La La Land. Everything is real.
You need to scale up. In order to scale up, you need use.
Okay, Daniel, can you share some of your example of how data sustainability is already being put into practice successfully? You can share probably one or two cases, which example you have done with it, which this how data sustainability is already being put into the practice.
Well, yeah, I will start maybe with how this really emerged a few years ago, and to see the impact of like data innovation on the African continent, and it was on the health sector. Yeah, so long before COVID, a few years before COVID, which was everybody knows was the Ebola outbreak in West Africa.
Oh yeah, that was in Africa. Yeah. Yes, so it was quite serious. Yeah,
it was serious. Was serious in terms that also can be expanded to everywhere. Yeah?
Across the world. Yes.
In that case was data. Yeah. People getting data all over the place and applying data science in order to track where the disease was spreading and how to contain it. that was key. And then people thought, wow, why data is important on the African continent, specifically there, because of course, it's like for each continent and each country, data solves a specific issue, and that was the issue that we saved. Now, in terms of innovation, it's like, at least from what I'm doing right now, is to create this type of systems. But it's easy to go online and to see in terms of what is called precision agriculture, what is the huge impact of precision agriculture right now all over the place. In order to understand the quality of a soil, what you need to put more, not too much, a little bit more, what you need to, like the impact on how doing the quantity, the quality of what we produce is big. So yeah, there are a lot of data innovations in terms of looking at other sectors. And as I was telling you, is like, I was looking at what is open banking in Southeast Asia, how to bank those people that normally they don't have access to credit. And this is financial inclusion of small and medium enterprises.
Okay, let's right. I think it's the time to take a look at the question posted by the audience. Let's look at the first questions. This is from the registration. Before this live cast started. As a Japanese, I am very worried about decline in GDP in Japan in recent years due to the aging population. Is there anything that we can do as individual? This is from the posted questions, which is from the registration link. Daniel.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on Japan, but of course, this is a very relevant question, and this is exactly what we were talking before. When we know that Japan is like stagnating for a while, because of different issues, like the switch from attention from high quality products to like products that we are replacing all day long. But of course, the aging population and the decline in demography is a huge thing, including here in Romania, in Europe. And when you have that, what actually data is bringing, or digitalization is automatization, because automatization is data related. Yeah. Well, meaning that you do not have a workforce to cover specific sectors of the economy, then you are finding ways to automatize that, to have like an automatic process that can replace that process. Now, for a lot of countries, this is scary when it comes to AI replacing the workforce. But same issue for countries like Japan can be, useful. And we saw a drive in the technology there for more than 20 years right now. People are thinking about it. Now, what the individual can do, this is, I don't know, how I can reply to that question.
Okay. I think so. Now we are going to change the gears a little bit. We have been talking about and all the concerns that we have been discussing on the show. I would like you to be able to share your ideas and see what other listeners are thinking about that in a little bit. So, harnessing data's economic power. Let's look at this. Data is the key to unlocking the potential of the fourth industrial revolution. It fuels AI, artificial intelligence, precision medicine, robotics, and the Internet of Things, which is you mentioned that earlier on. How we use data and how we safeguard it will determine the ultimate success or failure of the revolution. But there are fundamental questions that need to be answered to move forward. So, Daniel, who owns data? What can you do with it? Who derives the economic benefits?
The $1 million question. Yeah.
Am I putting you on am I putting you in the spot?
No, it's not. It's just a question that I think it's very important actually to
Yeah,
debate
yeah,
and
yeah.
see what it's like, because at the end of the day, what I don't think is beneficial is like to be in some sort of an environment where it's like we are pointing fingers, we create like barriers. This is, we have to all stay together, actually, everybody, actually, and all the big companies, small companies, governments, and actually find a
Mm,
long-term strategy to this, because this is, I think, the shift that we need to do. We have to shift a little bit from uh, the game that is now actually being growing as a company very fast, to a more long-term approach, because that long-term approach is more beneficial for everybody in terms of security, of social stability, and so on and so forth. And this, ownership is at the basis of absolutely everything. Ownership is the property. Property meaning, you have a value. Yeah? So, defining who owns the data is very important. A lot of people are putting that. And again, it's like when I was in Brussels, people were a lot discussing, okay, what is this? If you get data with the machine, with an IoT, but from my land, what is the return? You see? So because there is this whole struggle and fight between who owns the data, that somehow stucks the system. The people, they don't share anymore
mhm,
on this. So what we are trying to do, at least in Senegal, having open discussion about this. And I've always believed that the best system for absolutely everybody is that everybody has something to gain from something. That means that in this new system where everybody gains a little bit, or some more, some less, let's say, um, the gains that are now on this market will not be so strong. Meaning, if because now somehow is a race to the bottom type of approach. Yeah? Some people get some are
mhm,
not. But if you go a little bit and then um, that means that the gains in like money will not be so impressive maybe in the future, and
mhm,
maybe that will is not so motivating for a lot of people. But I want to place this type of thinking in this. It's like in the long term. You know, this is around our societies, in our neighborhoods, in our cities, all over the place. When we have less divides between people, when we have less social tensions, that actually is very beneficial for absolutely everybody of us. And that is the change. And sometimes this can be seen again a little bit utopic. But I
mhm,
always want to take people back to how the internet was. The internet, the people that did the IPs and stuff like that, there were people that were like voluntarily working. It's like we know how to do that. We know how to cooperate. We are moving much away from that system. That is the reality. But that type of cooperation, that way of win-win situations, it's I believe the only way we can keep the environment safe, innovate more, uh, and yeah,
Do you
be more
think,
in peace.
Daniel, what would believe if is it what the majority believe? I think that is highly questionable because we believe because we all informed and because we are in the front age of the knowledge production. So therefore, we discuss, we debate, then we inform, then we realize, and then we understood. So then we believe. Put it this way. So is it what the majority out there really thinking the same way what we do? I think there's a highly questionable. There's a reason, when you talk about this ownership, there's a lot of to be debated. So some people say own this, some people no, and some people stealing data, some people selling data without any consensus. To be honest, I'm not sure about how the European climate about how this data to be treated because I have left Europe for many years. But as I can share with you in Malaysia context here, right? it's not really highly respected, especially come to data treatment. So they just treat it as okay, just another piece of paper, things like that. So it can be just like passing around, people just passing, people selling, people just getting this data, like try to ask you something from nowhere, try to I was wondering how did they get all this data, although we
Yeah,
have all this protection act, so but
yeah.
it still become a highly questionable. So I think the question here is, how many people really believe in whatever we believe or not? I think that's the
Uh,
questions here.
because they do not understand the value. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. We talk about the value
yeah,
earlier on.
yeah. Because if they are understood the value of what they are doing, of
Mm,
course, this data space approach that we are working is from the European Union, is the way of the European Union some sort of answer to this. Also, how people are
mm,
owning and exchanging data. This is, you can also browse. There is a European Center for Data Spaces. You can go
mhm,
there and look exactly. They just published a blueprint on how to build
mm,
this. But uh, of course, you cannot care about something that you don't know, and this is what
mhm.
we are trying to do, to prove the value of the data. And then, if everybody has an interest in this, I can assure you that things will change a little bit, because the discussions are very blurry. You pass with your car on the highway that has IoT devices. Who owns that data? Whose data is there? The people that got the data, that invested a lot of money in those IoT devices, mine, that I am somehow subject of that data, even if I am not identified as a person, the community, or we can have a system where everybody wins, not the same amount, and but you get some, I get, well, I don't get monetary return, but I get services out of that, because to be repaid in services is another way of actually having a social contract on data. Now, if everybody agrees, I believe that some people in some regions and some countries have a way of thinking. Here, at least in Europe and in Eastern Europe, we are very careful
Mhm.
about data protection, because we were under. Uh,
Yeah.
and then some people are less. If I go on the afternoon,
Mhm.
they do not really care, right, a lot about data privacy. Some people, they are starting to more, but not at the same level.
Mm.
Yeah. Uh, Now, how do you make a thing out of this? Like, you have to look at the objective.
So
Our
now,
objective
now,
is to make data.
now, now we know that why we need so much of cybersecurity protection. Okay, let's look at Daniel. Let's look at the commercialization ecosystem and also the impact assessment. Um, what should be the right balance for government intervention versus market mechanism for data economy?
Yeah. No, looking at how things work, or what is the theory. I studied to be a civil servant. For me, my thinking in what is the role of the state and of the economy is very important. And of course, depending on different governance systems, countries, a government have more or less responsibility. But in principle, is to make sure you are healthy, to make sure you are educated, to make sure that you are protected. Yeah. And of course, in European Union, the idea is of privacy is a right. Not everybody is the same, but in European Union, this is a right. Yeah, when you have a right, then the state somehow is obliged to protect that. Now, on the other side, you have the economy. The economy produces value. That value you need to tax in order to get financing to your budget to build highways. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you need always to have a balance around how much uh, regulation you apply to an economical sector, yeah, and your need to protect your citizens, yeah. And we are seeing different models in the world where the state is very much present. I believe that in the European Union is always trying to balance this innovation with rights. And of course, you have
Mhm.
other systems where the private sector is more, let's say, present there. However, we have to understand what is regulation. Regulation is not always law.
Regulation. Yeah.
You spoke about the code in Malaysia. Well, a code is also a form of regulation, but it's a form of sort of self-regulation, because there are different stages. The law is the most powerful, yeah? But for the law, you also need very strong institutions to apply it.
Correct. Agree.
Law without institutions does not produce effects. Yeah. When you have more institutions, you have more bureaucratic burden. It's a different system. Then you can go up, down to self-regulation, where you meet with all the companies and you voluntarily agree to abide by a specific law. And that is also a term that also used in the European Union. Large majority of things are done by voluntary agreeing on different stuff. So at the end of the day, what is the balance between this innovation? And this is a hard to do thing in the current world, globalized, digitalized, and at the end of the day, we can look also in the European Union a lot. It's like European Union. In some cases, initiated big companies. A lot of those companies went to the States because it's easier. They consider that it's less regulatory.
Okay, Daniel. I'd like to tap into this regulation. You talked about regulation earlier on. I mean, we all aware that there's many countries in the European Union. So every country, they have the different rules and regulation, different way how they understand practices, especially all this cyber law or whatever, especially coming to data protection. So is there a one-size-fit-all regulatory framework for data economy?
Well, in European Union, the legislation, how we do here, it's one is regulation, that is decide the law applies all over the place, and what other thing that is called directive, that is still a European law, where a member state is given an objective, but each country is free to use other means to achieve that objective, and that is a directive, what is called the EU directive, also very used. Now, what do we have as data? We have data protection, cybersecurity legislation related to data, protection side of data. There are a lot of discussion about data sovereignty, where do you store your data, like that. And of course, data value creation. That is another aspect. Then you have a lot also legislation that are trying to create the market conditions where people are sharing that data. One size fits all. Well, for me, this is in the digital sector. For me, is something that I try to wrap my hand around. In order for us to, to change, at least in European, but although in Africa we are trying to promote the same thing, we are trying to have harmonization. Meaning, in order for one to move to another, you need to harmonize the rules, meaning to be the same rules. Meaning, and that is for a company, because if a company needs to abide by one rule here, another rule there, especially for the small ones, it will be impossible. They'll be bankrupt only from administrative costs. So the idea, including on the African continent, is to make sure that we cooperate, we are harmonized. And of course, I am a big adept of harmonization.
That's nice. Very humane. Very humane. That's good thing being human. We still remember who we are and how we are and what we are. Okay, Daniel, how can economic wealth be created in data economy, in your point of view?
Well, economic wealth is done by the difference between what you invest actually and what is the return of that on that investment. And for example, again, going back to the work on the agriculture, if you can easily support farmers in a specific country to produce 20% more and better quality I believe that is a direct value of how data is applied. And that is what we are trying to do. You know, produce more, less input, smarter, and out of this you generate value, profit. You know, as I told you at the beginning, it is the economical profit value of a company that generates on a specific market, but also a huge social, societal impact. That is very hard sometimes to, when a lot of people, they are so focused on the money side, they don't look at the social things, because look, it's like sometimes things, you cannot buy everything with money. It's like security and a lot of other things. And then uh, if you have this value, at least the economical value, uh, then another question will be, you know, what is a normal economical process where the government applying the tax on that profit in order for him to finance this entire system, yeah, working like this. But of course, you know, when uh, in the current taxation global system, this is very hard to do. And you will see that at least in the European Union, you know, the biggest amount of tax contributions to national budgets are mostly done by SMEs, by small and medium enterprises. You know?
So,
So yeah,
Daniel, how can we use data for economic, social, and environmental sustainability?
well, you know, we can, as I told you, use less resources. That in a situation where you have less and less drinkable water, it's very important that you can save like 30% of it in the agriculture field using this type of technologies, data. Yeah? Better, let's say, less like misuse, because you can see that the statistics around 20% of all the food that we are producing gets thrown away. 20%. Better traceability of products on agriculture, meaning I am able to sell a product that I can grow in Africa on the European market if can I prove the traceability, meaning Europe will also want to know, okay, you can bring your product if you do not use this sort of chemicals and stuff like that. These data systems can assure traceability, meaning can convince or can make sure that European countries know that if they work, for example, with Senegal in this case, you know, in that specific product, no banned products were used that are banned in Europe, for example. That assured market access.
Okay,
Flows.
Daniel, how can the data economy contribute? How can the data economy contribute to social welfare, not just private value?
When you are in a government, um, a vast amount, depending again by the country, but a lot of resources are used to support those in need. People that are poor, kids that need support for the education, so on and so forth. Um, Sometimes the system is abused, and we saw a couple of years, you know, it's like also in Nigeria, where a lot of people that, you know, was in the registries, they are dead or something like that. But also, what you can do with data in the welfare system is to understand very clearly where the intervention of the state is needed, and if that intervention is placed in that person or in that community, it will have ripple effects and will get more out of poverty. Imagine that, you know, the micro loans in Africa, having somebody that is here and just need a little bit of support to open a business or to do something, identifying that person, supporting that person will break the poverty line, will maybe have a business, will maybe hire other 5 people to pay salaries. And that is how society works, is supporting, growing the economy, hiring people, paying taxes. And this is, you know, data can support us in pinpointing specifically where to have those interventions in the
Okay,
welfare.
Daniel, in your many years of experience, what is the right governance and policy framework for data economy?
Yeah,
Is
of
there
course,
any? Is
I
there
am
any?
European. I would always say that the European model even can
But
be.
it's okay. I think from us from the Southeast Asian region here, I think we can see all the giant like the European Union or what what you guys do, right? Then we can see as a model, to benchmark with, and then to recontextualize, to more localize, into our region. So
Yeah,
I think there's nothing wrong. We would like to see the powerhouse
yeah,
like the European Union, how you
we,
deal with this data economy framework, if there
well,
is
look,
any.
as I told you,
Yeah.
I strongly believe in the type of regulation that the EU is doing. However, this needs a strong institutional framework. Without it, cannot work.
Yeah,
Look,
institutional support. Yeah,
AI Act is
yeah,
banning.
this is the crucial point. Yeah.
Yeah, AI Act is banning, for example, real-time processing, AI real-time processing of biometric data, meaning like the CCTV cameras on the street cannot real-time process using an AI. That is banned right now in the European Union. But okay, how do we enforce that? You need people to go and check, no? It's like, how do we enforce that? The enforcement is 50% of the other coin, and you need strong institutions to do that. Now, is this model, even if it's very good, being capable, being applied in countries with that they don't have such a strong institutional footprint? Yeah, what is the end goal? And this is the thing, you have to understand that from regulation, but you have also tools. Sometimes when you create technology that does not allow you to do different stuff, when you create this type of tools, it's also a way of achieving the same goal. The goal is either to facilitate a sort of behavior that you consider positive and you want to influence to have more of that behavior, or to ban a specific type of behavior. So when we look about this goal, of course, you have all this myriad of regulations that need an institutional type of framework. And also you have the tools. Just look at how many patents that are actually protecting data privacy are there out there. Look, in US, many patents. There is technology that can support us protect our data, or sell our data. Meaning, once you protect it, and then if it's there, then you can sell it. If you want to sell it, it's your choice.
Okay. Should we standardize data to capitalize on globally applicable data analytics and algorithms?
Looking at the AI big engines right now, we have to understand like AI is crucial for all this data thing right now. I was telling you about at the beginning about the situation that we face all over the place, especially in many countries, is that this data is one siloed, it is locked on different servers, but most importantly, is not on the same format. Meaning, in order for data to have value, has to have a certain type of granularity. Meaning, look at the Excel file that has a lot of things, yeah, and has to be on the same format. You cannot compare apple to pears. Yeah? And until recently, it was highly expensive to solve this issue. Now, generative AI, you just can drop the AI there, and they will organize the data much more efficient. This is a game changer in what we do. Now, when you speak about AI, it's like, if at this moment in time, an AI takes so much energy to learn and process, but of course, we are hearing that advances that will lower that. You need processing capacity, strong computers to grind that data. Yeah. I cannot imagine that you will have a myriad or like thousands all over the place of AI platforms. I see, do at this moment in time a centralization of few engines. Now, how do you use that engine? For example, in the data space that we are we have a module there. It's like we have data here. We can process using a big engine, AI engine from one of the big companies, in order to take insights from our data. Another thing is related to privacy. A lot of the data is not allowed to be processed somewhere. And it was some sort, like, especially health, you don't want to really give somebody your health data, yeah? Or is hospital or a country, in order to identify a specific cure, to give health data. That is not a lot of people normally want to do that. But however, with they have, I think it's homomorphic encryption. There is a new form of encryption that works with AI, meaning data is encrypted here, it's encryption sent to the AI, it's sent back to the owner, the results, in an encrypted way. There is an encrypted process from one way to another of this data. That will make possible to process, for example, large amounts of big health data. That impact is huge in terms of disease control, new vaccines,
People can use it as a conspiracy practice, isn't it?
I do not want to engage in things, but people can go and look at this type of new technologies of total encryption.
Yeah, exactly.
You see, when you speak about, at the end of the day, everything is related to trust.
Okay, Daniel, I think we can be like on and on another 2 hours. Daniel. Okay, I think Daniel, this is a great, thank you so much for giving us the time today from your busy schedule. Daniel, you're a big man, I know that. For sharing all of your expertise, and it gave us a lot to think about as well. It is an absolute pleasure indeed, Daniel. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the kind invitation, and have a great weekend to everybody there from all the places that people are looking. Right?
Yeah, we have we are evening now. We are going towards the evening. Okay, thank you, Daniel.
Bye bye.
Okay, a little conclusion here. Data is shaping the future of humanity. Just now I was teasing Daniel. He was a little bit humane because of harmonization. It brings us to the certain, which is harmony is not too over tech. Data is shaping the future of humanity. The production, distribution, and consumption of digital data, the data economy, are driving rapid advances in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and automation. Individuals and businesses are using data to reduce search and transaction costs and make informed choices. Data is facilitating scientific and economic research, making societies more productive. It is helping to improve the efficacy of public policy in terms of delivery of public services, transparency, and accountability, which is Daniel has highlighted quite a bit. Data is helping us track progress on every sustainable development goal in the 2030 agenda and deliver broad-based social welfare. With that, Spotlight Dialogue episode is a live podcast organized by a special interest group in circular economy from Integrated Sustainability and Creative Strategies Research Cluster at Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation, APU. To keep up with the show, go to APU Facebook page. There was our episode of a truly incredible season we have lined up for you. So please be sure to like and follow our APU Facebook and wherever you watch and listen to the live podcast to never miss an episode. If listeners are curious to know more about us and find out more information, please drop me a line. Email address has indicated on the right top corner of the screen. Thanks for tuning in. Till then, take care and each other. Enjoy the rest of the evening.